Okay, so first of all, to subtract these fractions here, we need to have the denominators factored. So this one's already done. There's nothing we can do with x plus 1. I'm putting parentheses around it because it's together. Now we have our next one here. So we need to think of it's a trinomial. So we know that when we factor it, it will look like this. And we need to think of numbers that multiply to -2, but combine to -1. So we would have -2 and +1. So that's our first step, is to factor the denominators. Next thing we need to do is find the least common denominator. Okay, so to find the least common denominator, I'm going to take the first fraction, which is x plus 1, and I'm going to write it down. And when I multiply the least common denominator by the first fraction, this is going to cancel out with this. So we're good there. Now if we think about the next fraction here, we're going to have we need the x minus 2. So I need to add on x minus 2 here. So that way this will cancel out with this. And then so we have the x minus 2 will cancel out with the x minus 2, and the x plus 1 will cancel out with the x plus 1. So we're good. So our least common denominator is x plus 1 times x minus 2. Now let's go ahead and rewrite the problem with the common denominator. Okay, so to rewrite it, we're going to take our common denominator, which was x plus 1 times x minus 2. That was our common denominator. And remember, we're really multiplying by this whole thing, because this equals 1. So you're essentially multiplying 1 to everything. So let's go ahead and first thing I would, so when I distribute to the first fraction here, this x plus 1 is going to cancel with this x plus 1. And what's going to be left is our denominator. And then in the numerator, what's left is this 2 and the x minus 2. So we have the 2 and the x minus 2. Okay, now we're going to distribute to the second fraction. So we have this x minus 2 is going to cancel out with this x minus 2, and this x plus 1 will cancel out with this x plus 1, and all we're left with is this, which is already down here. And as you can see, when we distribute here, we're going to still have this x minus 2 here. So we have minus, we have to bring this symbol down, it's minus, and then the x minus 2 is together, so I need to put parentheses because it's together. So the next step is we need to simplify the numerator. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and distribute here. And then here we have a minus sign, so we have to distribute it. Remember, it changes everything after it to the opposite, so -x and +2 now. Now we're going to combine the like terms. Alright, now that we have our numerator simplified, now we have to see, can this whole thing be simplified altogether? So if we take a look here, the x minus 2, those go together, and I see that this can be divided out from the numerator and the denominator. So all we're left with is the x plus 1 in the denominator, and when there's nothing left in the numerator, we need to put a 1. So this is our final answer.